Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the FordTechMakuloco channel. Today we have part 2 of the engine R&R on this 2017 Ford F-150 with a 3.5 liter Ecoboost engine. And a lot of you guys in the last video said you want to see more and more of this process, and we're just going to give you a general overview of us actually yanking the engine out now that the body's up, and then some transferring of parts, and of course mating everything back up on here. Either at the end of this video or the beginning of part 3, we'll show startup and stuff like that, and everything back together, and maybe go for a drive, stuff like that. You guys like that stuff. So as of right now, like I said in the last video, we pulled the body together, and I showed you what was involved with pulling the body and getting the engine ready to pull, and now we're ready to actually pull it and separate it from the transmission, yank it with the cherry picker, slide it on over to the new one, and start transferring parts over piece by piece. We're mainly going to be transferring bolts over, like attaching hardware, because everything like turbos, tubes, everything's going to be new on here. So we need some of the bolts on there for pulleys and stuff like that. Besides that, we're just going to build it on the stand and hunker it back into here. It's a beautiful engine over there. It's like all brand new. Let's go over to the truck here, the chassis, and check it out. Okay, so let's go ahead and give you a quick general overview, a little close-up view, and then we'll pull you back and let you watch it all happen. So you can see we're already picking it up and off of here. These actual mounts right here, the eyelets, they come on the new engine over there. So we swapped them over to the used one here. So we have a mounting point on here to lift it, one on each corner there. So you can see the area has some tension on it. We're lifted a little bit. We're at an angle, you can tell. There we go. So everything is off of here. Get you some better lighting. There we go. So you can see we're out of the engine mounts. Everything's detached on here. We have this thing floating in the air, the master. The exhaust and everything's disconnected back here. All our bell housing bolts, fuel line, stuff like that. There wasn't too much to pull off of here after pulling the body. I pulled the intercooler, stuff like that, just so we have room for the cherry picker, because that was all right here, and the rams right here, and the reservoir in the cylinder, so makes it better. More access. This one we always keep it on, this engine mount right here, and we always leave it bolted up like that. We'll transfer the engine mount and the bracket over just like that. It's in the perfect orientation. What's down in there? There's quite a bit of carbon inside of there. And the turbos, harnesses, stuff like that. So we're ready to yank it, huh?
Yep.
Let's get it out. All right, here we go. So we have the engine, of course, lifted and supported. The trans is supported with a block of wood across the front of the pan. So that's supported because it's all at an angle. And the rear mount on the trans is also loose, so it can lift up and get an angle going there. So right now, literally the dowel pins are holding the thing together. So we need to wiggle it and separate it, make sure it's supported, and that's it. So for something like this, I use a long, big flathead screwdriver. There's already a slot in the bell housing right now. Small one. So I'll work it on both sides. You man the lift. It already has tension on it. This side is not separating so nice. So you might need a pry bar over here. Yeah, see? Give me a big pry bar, the big one over there in the drawer. A huge one. There we go. Reinforcement. Yeah, what's that take? Woo. Okay. Big bar did it. For sure.
Is it separated?
Yeah, we're separated. So it didn't take much. It was hanging up on this side. It has 200,000 miles on its engine. It's been used hard. being a fleet truck. So that's it. I mean, once it's separated like that, we'll get the engine up and out of the way safely. Clear the cross member, the trans cooler, watch out for that, and the axle. I mean, there's plenty of room. You can keep going. Just watch those trans cooler lines right there, the hard lines.
You also gotta watch the
either go around them or go up. One or two.
Hydraulic control unit. We're about to max out our boom.
Well, we're okay over here. You just need to sneak past it. Hold on. Let me put this converter nut down. Yeah, you should have come this way, because now you're trying to hit this.
And push back.
This light does not need to be here. And these are way too close. I always pull it this way. Always pull it this way. This corner. Hold on. I'm gonna do it on this side. A lot less likely to tip that way. Alright, go ahead. I'm gonna lower it down, watch the frame. Get a little bit more central. Very easy job. Alright, guide me. There she goes. Why not? You guys can come with us. Alright, here we go. Alright, so the idea here is to take this old engine and all its pieces like coils and everything else, PCV lines, and hunker it down right here next to the new one. We started building this one already. Like I said, I don't mess around. I mean, either way it was getting new manifolds, all new manifolds. The rest of this came on here new. I always replace the thermostat housing. It's big plastic conglomerate, this thing. The water pump's new, stuff like that. So a new manifold over here. I'll get new turbos. So here they are, ready to go. So at this point, we just need to start transferring those pieces over. As you guys can see, with the amount of work that's going on here, I've been coming back to this here and there as time allows to get this done. But now that's out, he can start transferring pieces over. We can eventually get him done and out of here down the road and make this guy happy too. That's waiting on his first gen to get installed still. So let's go ahead and get it over here. We should be able to put this on the plastic pan, no problem, without it cracking and leaking everywhere. Not that it really matters besides the mess if it does actually crack. Something like that. It's gonna leak right there. We'll have to suck that out.
Be better once it's down on the ground though. It's tilted forward a bit right now.
Yeah. So we can go ahead, get our blocks of wood for the front here. Blocks of wood. And that'll contact the front of the pan here, and the back end just sits on the ass end of the pan there. This thing is nasty grody though. Look at this thing. Plenty of rust. It's definitely time for a new engine on this one. Okay, so back over here at the chassis on the ground here, you can see there's not much left. There's basically some cooling tubes right here, like a heater hose. We have the harness for the battery cables down to the starter and over to the alternator. We got a steering shaft hanging out here. We have the fluid warmer for the transmission that we left in place. So at this point, we just need to start cleaning up and getting all the stuff ready to go. I mean, you can see all this stuff right here, how much dirt and stuff gets packed in here on both sides. There's some fluid over there, fluid leakage here. We always pull the oil filter drain tray because they get clogged up over the years. We'll get that soaking. We clean that up real nice and blow everything out and just try to clean it as much as possible so it's as good as possible going back together while we have access to everything on here. And even like the cats here, where they mount up to the turbos, I'll always clean this flange of carbon or any kind of rust on there to make sure they seal properly going back together. The one thing you need to pay attention to that's really important whenever you pull an engine out, any vehicle, anywhere. When you're pulling it out, you're separating it from the trans. It usually gets hung up on one of the dowels on each side, or if you're at a wrong angle and it pops loose, it may hang up on one of the studs sticking out of the converter itself. And what you want to do is make sure the converter didn't get pulled out a little bit when the engine was removed on there, because it can do it and you won't even know. And then you go back to mate everything up on there and it won't line up and sit flush because it's pulled out of the pump housing on there. So whenever you go in pull an engine like this, even though it's a nice clean pull like we just did, you put your hand on here, your palm on here, you push and you twist. I have good resistance. I'm not spinning free. I can feel the spline with the transmission inside of there, and I can hear the fluid moving around inside of there. The other thing I do, just to make sure, is I'll go counterclockwise. This one, based on resistance and the way it feels, is smooth, has a smooth motion to it, has resistance to it, and it's not wobbly. It's very well supported right now. That means it's fully in there. So we're good to go there. We'll always grease the pilot hub on here, going back together, clean the face on here so it mates up properly, and we'll align our converter studs with the one on the flex plate on the engine. That way, once we start bolting everything back up, it'll fall together, and then we'll be ready to go. So it'll be lined up right in that pocket. But yeah, it's a lot of work. It's a mess. But with the body off, it wasn't that bad. Okay, so it's been a couple days since we pulled that engine out, as you just saw. There's lots of other projects going on here. I got to pull the trans on this one out of there. Just did like 2-3 days of overhauling on this truck right here. So we're just getting back to it today a little bit. I still gotta get that first gen in also, but this second gen is first. So we have the old one out. We swapped all the parts over to the new one that we needed to. There wasn't much, but certain things like hardware, harnesses, stuff like the water neck right here, that kind of stuff, engine brackets, all get swapped over. We have the new turbos on here, the adapters for the downpipe, all new gaskets and pipes. Everything is like new on here basically. So it's basically all assembled at this point, ready to go back into the vehicle, just the way it came out. So everything's in place, so we can mount it up to the trans and the fuel lines and the engine mounts and all that kind of stuff in the exhaust and get it transplanted into there. The one thing I did not think about, because I'm just so overwhelmed here with all these projects going on, is the engine mounts. And I wanted to check them before I just hunker this thing down. Because I usually don't change engine mounts. On the 543 valve, I change a lot of engines out, and I never change engine mounts. They're not failed. But this truck, with the extra heat from the turbos, from it sitting all the time from being a work truck, the mileage on it is extra high, and the torque of the engine, if you look at it, take a little peek under the dress here, you can see there's split in there. So the outer rubber is separated from the inner. And if I grab this, you know, and you look at it, you look underneath through the light and you grab it, there's quite a bit of deflection in there. I mean, this is me, my little hand, my little arm. Imagine what the torque on this engine is. So yeah, we're gonna have to try to order those, and hopefully it's not a part shortage on those. But otherwise, those will bolt down and it'll just drop in at this point. We're missing this oil line. The dealer neglected to supply it even though I ordered it. And I caught him on it, so I corrected them and they're sending it tomorrow. So I can pop that on. It's the last part right here. Goes over here to the filter. As far as the pan issue goes, so we did some measuring on this stiffener right here because a lot of you want to know about this. And there's obvious differences, like you see the webbing on here and there's no webbing right here, but it doesn't really make a big difference. The way it mounts up on here and the profile is still made up to a 10R80 transmission. So we measured some different points on here, like the center of the bolt hole here to the top, and we did the same thing on here. Looked around it on the sides and stuff like that, and there isn't much to it besides mounting boss right here and right there. This one wasn't attached to anything on the old engine. You can see it's right there, and it's just dirty as can be. You can tell there's nothing was threaded into there. But like I said, on the passenger side, before I told you guys, there is a ground that goes into here with a 90-degree return into the recess here, a little tang on there. And you can't use that on this one, that ground, because it's a ground terminal and 90-degree tang. You can't return it into anything. It's all flat here. So all you gotta do is straighten out that ground, the tang on there, and then bolt it up. Same size bolt, everything. So besides that, you know, nothing else on our model, you know, as far as cooling lines and all that stuff, need to attach to the pan here. So I think this is the only real difference that they're worried about. Otherwise, that axle, that 8/8 axle in the front there, it's gonna be the same. It's been the same forever on the front axle. So whether you had a 17 old style or an 18, 19, 20, it's gonna be the same axle up there with the same clearances to the pan. So I have no worries about doing that and putting it in there with this style pan. The biggest difference between the two-piecer and the one-piecer is the oil pickup, which obviously is the correct oil pickup and configuration for this pan and this engine, because that's the way it was built all together as one, correct parts from the factory. So we're good to go there. So it looks like that is going to work. Minor differences is I think all we're gonna run into. We can easily fix that. So let's go over there and check it out real quick. So I talked to the customer, and he's, you know, he sees it's all torn apart like this, and he sees there's some rust in the frame and stuff like that, and he's like, well, can you do something about that? Like, I don't really do body work, but well, it's apart. Yeah, I'll clean it up. We'll blow it out. We'll scrub it down, and we'll put some, you know, fluid film or wool wax on there. And so I said for the inaccessible areas that you can't get to down below, or that shop can't get to down below, like up top here, the top of the rail, I'll clean all this up with a wire brush, air, and then brake clean, and I'll coat it for them. So it looks like this. And when it's starting to rust like this, you don't want to put, you know, any kind of paint over it anyways. You want to just kind of put the wool wax on it, or the fluid film, that's going to nurture and protect it, and kind of seal it up from water and air so it doesn't progress any further. So I basically have the whole area up front here done. Maybe a few areas I got to touch up. I said, sure, I'll do it for you. I wish I had the rattle cans of black. They would look so much nicer, but Either way, it looks a million times better. And all these inaccessible areas, especially the top of the rail here, is coated now really well. I think we, of course, blew everything else out, cleaned everything else up, so it's good to go. Man, what a difference from before. Cleaned that pocket out in there, all that stuff. So we cleaned up the bell housing and the ports on the exhaust there. So that's ready to go. We're gonna grease the pilot hub right before we put it in. And I think we're good to go. I mean, the rest of this dirt and stuff, he's just gonna have to get a pressure washer in there or steam it clean if he wants it that clean. But the frame's the most important, and that's what we took care of. So now I guess we're waiting on engine mounts. And once we get the engine in and we can look at it from the sides here and down below, we'll tell you if there's any kind of clearance issues with the frame here. You can see the transcooler lines on this particular model. They don't attach it all on here. It looks like to the wheel pan like some of the other models do. And then here's that little ground. You see that has the 90-degree bend on it right there? Well, that don't work on the new pan. Guess what? Get a hammer and the pliers, bend it straight, clean it up, and it bolts right up still. No problem. And that aluminum pan is way better than that two-piecer, I tell you that. So like I said, this axle, you look at this axle over the years, it's the same one Ford's been using for freaking ever. So I can't see any differences between the, you know, a 19 and newer when they've been using the same one for a long, long time. The more beefy design like this has been out since at least '09. We started seeing it, where the pumpkin's bigger and stuff like that. So it shouldn't be an issue because that pan in the pickup, the sump goes right here. Just past it, and then it goes into a sump, and then it mounts up with the bell housing on here. So once we get stuff back into here, we get settled down on our new engine mounts once they come, and we get things settled a little bit, we'll come back and we'll talk about it a little bit more and how the clearances are in there, because I know a lot of you guys had a question about that oil pan. That was the fix on there, and it was possible. But it's looking pretty good. We're just waiting on more parts now. That's the way life goes. That's all for now. See you guys next time.